Hello and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name's Steve Anderson. I am, as always, your humble host. We are a proud service of Walther Firearms. You can tell from the luxurious background features of the Walther studio that I am currently recording from. It's all Walther all the time. And again, PDP steel frame. Finest out-of-the-box competition handgun in the production/carry optics/production/service handgun, whatever you want to call it. There's not anything better that I've ever seen. You'll feel it when you pick it up. It will immediately cause you to believe that you are wielding the sword of Gibraltar, except it won't be stuck in a rock. It'll be stuck in your holster. But not if you use CR speed. We'll get to that in a minute. So, we like a steel frame gun because the weight is reassuring. We like what it does in recoil. If you like softer, smoother, flatter, that's fine. It really plays into longer, slightly more difficult shots. The gun is more stable than a polymer frame gun. The trigger, I refuse to believe that it's in the territory of 4 pounds. When you feel the trigger on the Walther PDP steel frame right out of the box, you're going to make a face that might not be suitable for children. I mean, make your own jokes. It is a fine, fine, fine firearm. And if you don't agree, if you don't like it, they will take it back. No questions asked. Well, they might ask you a question. What's wrong with you, bro? No, they won't ask you that. They'll just give you your money back. And again, I'm not aware of anybody in the industry that has ever done that before. Certainly not recently. The old gun store experience used to be, hey, I bought this and I don't like it. Well, we could probably give you a couple $100 in trade on that. Doesn't make people very happy. But a 30-day money-back guarantee will make you very happy. You won't need it, but it's there anyway. And, of course, Targets USA manufactures the finest steel targetry on the planet. It is portable. It is affordable. It is the very best. CR Speed, as you know, makes the finest gun handling gadgetry you can wrap around your waist or anywhere else. And the AMG-Lab.com Commanderson timer continues to turn heads and blow minds by putting the time into the tablet. Hunter's HD Gold is the only eyewear that I wear, and you know that because I are always wearing it. And OutdoorDynamics.net remanufactures the finest competition ammunition you can dispense from a Freedom Seed dispenser. Shooting Sports Innovations.com. So much stuff to type, so much stuff to see. David Lee Roth approved range towel, promo code Anderson, all the normal stuff. All right, so the marketing department wants me to remind you we've got mental management coming up at noon Eastern Standard Time, February 13, 14, and 15. If you're in a weird time zone, this is a good spot for you. At 3 p.m., February 20, 21, and 22, also in the Eastern time zone, done via the Zoom. And the ever-popular 6 p.m. time slot, March 26 through 28. I want to tell you about my buddy Domingo in Puerto Rico. Domingo took the second class right before the Caribbean Open, the day before. Right, we did Class 1, we did Class 2. I pulled him up, practice score competitor. He is currently winning his division. Now, I know, there's more shooters yet to come through. But he has learned how to produce a winning performance on demand in 4 short hours. Okay? His nemesis used to be Mike's. He has had 0 mics for the entire match and exactly 1 no-shoot. Not by saying no mics, no mics, no mics, no mics, no mics, but by identifying something to think about instead of thinking about mics. By identifying something to think about to allow subconscious skill. And what you think about off the range is extremely critical for getting access to all that training that you're doing. When I explain to you how this stuff works, you will realize that you've been using it in other areas of your life, but it's taken you a long time. And you may not fully understand how you're able to use it in the rest of your life. Well, I've been doing it 20 years. I'm pretty good at it. But in shooting, I've been doing it 1.5 years and I suck. And that brings us to today's podcast topic. Oh, and by the way, you can still get a free class this year. We do have some opportunities on the calendar. All I need you to do is send me an email, steve@andersonshooting.com, or go to the website. There's a tab, I think, somewhere where you can say arrange a class in my area. It is super, super easy to do. And if you were attracted to the clickbait of today's program and you want to move up in class, say, hey, I got me and a bunch of buddies. We want to move up in class. I know exactly how to do it. You might say I invented how to do it, but we'll get to that here very shortly. And that brings us to the topic at hand. So, as you know, my Facebook accounts got hacked, and I'm hopeful that we can regain control of at least the Anderson Shooting page. I had a very long phone call at midnight with a Polish gentleman who works at the Facebook, who it was not midnight for him, but it was midnight for me, and we're going to try to get that done. So that's why I haven't rebuilt the other page. I've been busy over on the Instagram trying to market over there a little bit. But I was perusing the new fate book, Upon the Throne of Contemplation, and I saw an article that said, make it your mission to get out of C class. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder what they're going to say. And I'm sitting, contemplating, scrolling, and I see my name. Well, looky there. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's nice to be mentioned, but I did invent the fastest way to get to whatever class you want. It's just a fact. You know, when I started shooting in the late 1990s, I was shooting production. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I was having a blast. And I got a card one day in the mail that said A class. So I showed it to my buddy Vern and said, hey, what does this mean? He goes, yeah, you've been shooting classifiers and you're classified as A class. Okay. All I know is in southeast Ohio, they call them qualifiers. And I knew I was shooting a qualifier that had some ostriches, but I didn't know that there was really a classifier. Some people still call them qualifiers. I really didn't know. And I certainly didn't treat them any differently. I just shot. Okay? At this time, I had already invented the first dry fire drill, which was low ready to a bowling pin. My previous experience was shooting bowling pin matches, and I reasoned that if I could hit the first pin, I usually won the match. If I didn't hit the first pin successfully, I usually didn't win the match. So, I had this brilliant idea. Came to the shocking conclusion that, hey, if I get a little bit better at hitting this first pin, I can win more often. A ding, 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 ding. And it worked. So I want to give you my version of how to get to C class. And hopefully between now and when you're watching this, I have thought of better clickbait, because some of you want to get out of B class. Some of you want to get out of A class. Some of you want to get the M. Some of you want to get the G. The process is exactly the same. And the article mentioned the author of the article, I think it was co-written by my buddy Josh Shaw and somebody else. Whoever wrote this part said they don't think everybody can get to Grandmaster. I would agree that some people will have a little bit harder time, but I do believe that if you are able-bodied and in reasonably good condition, you can absolutely get to Master. As long as you don't have any, physical ailments, you're not fighting shooter's elbow or anything like that, you're in reasonably good shape. Age, not really a factor unless there's some detrimental physical things going on there. But I would go so far as to say that any healthy individual can make Grandmaster. Now, it is the absolute limit of human function with a firearm. It's not supposed to be easy. That's why they call it Grand Mastery, right? It's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication. But my book, Refinement and Reputation, Refinement and Repetition, produced the first Grand Master in Ohio, and that was me. That's how I did it, okay? So I want to explain to you a step-by-step process for getting out of C class and beyond. Okay, so you want out of C class, you want out of B class, you want out of A class. Fine. The first thing we have to ask ourselves is, are you getting your current level of skill on classifiers? And buddy, that's either a yes or that's a no. Meaning I can go up to classifiers the vast majority of the time and get a score that reflects my current level of skill. Okay? If the answer to that question is yes, all you got to do is get faster. Not go faster, but get faster. If the answer to that is no, you need mental management. The mental management class, specifically designed to get access to your skill in training under pressure on demand. That's why it was invented, and that's what it does. All right, so let's assume that you're able to get your current level of skill on demand. Let's start with that assumption, okay? So here's how to get faster. The only thing you need to do to get faster is identify the skill that needs to get quicker and put a par time on it in dry fire. That is all you need to do. Doesn't matter what the skill is. Put a par time on it and start chipping away. Refinement and repetition was only written, the only reason I wrote that book was because people kept asking me, how did you get to Grandmaster? At the time, I had 12 drills on a single piece of paper, and I gave away, I'd write them down. And then I thought, well, maybe people will buy a book, and maybe that'll help me with my shooting expenses. So that's what I did. It will give you GM speed when it is used correctly. So the first thing I need you to do when you get your copy of Refinement and Repetition is take the part that says do 10 this way, do 10 that way, do 10 over there, do 10 over here, then do 10 like this. Cross that out. Now those instructions are very useful in the beginning when you're learning the drill. But once you know the drill and you've done it a few times, 3 to 5 minutes at or slightly below your current par time is a better way to do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, you'll get vastly more reps in, which is the key. And number two, you'll be less judgmental of each rep. Right? If you just do 10 reps, you'll do 1. Oh, that was crap. Number 2, well, that was crap, but it wasn't stinky crap. Number 3, now we're getting somewhere. And then you have this mixed bag of opinions about each rep. Those opinions of each rep are extremely important. They are more important than you realize. So a better way to do it is to set your par time a tenth of a second below where you're at and find something to do sooner. For example, the first 6, maybe 7, I'm still traveling, don't have the book in front of me. I believe the first 6 drills are presentation drills. You're drawing to an acceptable sight picture with the safety off if you have one and your finger on the trigger. You're going to do everything but break the shot. And the reason you're not going to break the shot is it's too easy to break the shot on a poor sight picture to beat the par time. But if your goal is an acceptable sight picture at the par time with your finger on the trigger, that's the way to do it. On the presentation drills, examine every movement that you're doing. You could do a couple in slow motion. Hey, what's going on here? And by the way, a really great trick on the presentation drills is to set your shoulder with your hand on your holstered gun and then leave your shoulder as close to that position as you can while you comply with the start position. That's good for a tenth every single time. Now, as you are chipping away at the par time, particularly in the presentation drills or any of the other ones, you are going to miss your grip. That is okay. Keep repping over minor grip issues, and grip will come back soon. Especially if you identify a different way to hold your hands or your shoulders or your elbows or anything else you got attached to your body. Because the start position of those things is changing, you're very likely to miss your grip for a very short period of time. You can stop and dissect it if you want to, but you're missing out on rep time and you're sending negative imprints to your self-image. You don't want to do that. So that's one of the reasons why I want you to do the drills for 3 to 5 minutes as opposed to counting reps and dissecting the problems with all of them. Okay? And tiny targets will keep you slow. I'll say that one more time. If you're using those 1/6 plain size cards target, too many syllables, sound like Squirrely Dan's. If you're using one of those six sizes targets, you'll find it hard to get fasters. Another moment of silence for the passing of Letterkenny. Tiny targets will keep you slow, and that's just all there is to it. I don't care how close you get to, well, if I get a foot away, it simulates a 3 foot. I don't care about any of that. It doesn't look the same. That's just all there is to it. So I'm okay down to a third if we get pretty close, but I do not like a target smaller than a third. Now, the 1/6 size can be useful in match mode dry fire, which we'll get to later, if you sprinkle them in here and there. But you will not get faster on tiny targets, I promise you. Because, so let's just say it looks like 15 yards. Wherever you stand, whatever you're doing, it's 15 yards. Okay, well, 15 yards is not a great place to go looking for a smoke and draw. It's just not. Now, I'm not saying you can't do a smoke and draw at 15 yards, but that's a terrible distance at which to try to speed up your draw. Too much going on. Okay, so full-size targets, far better. Now, I don't care how close you get to them. It doesn't matter. Bigger targets equals more speed quicker. Now, what I need you to understand, every rep you do in training will send some kind of an idea to your confidence bank that is either positive or negative. Okay, we call that self-image. The sum total of those thoughts, those ideas, they hang around in your short-term, long-term memory. Yes, we can't get too deep into it here, but they create short-term memory and long-term memory. Let's just put it that way. Every idea, so let's say you're working on your draw, and you do 100 of them, and you think 75 of them are crap. How are you feeling when you go do a draw to match? If 75% were crap, you have a 75% success, 75% chance of having a crap draw. Especially if you think about it. So we'll get back to that in a minute. What I'm telling you to do, and most of you don't believe me, but the mental management graduates are nodding their head because they know how this works. We explain it very well in that class. Okay, but on the multiple shot drills. Oh, and by the way, before we move on from the presentation drills, please do not neglect your one-handed shooting. We'll come back to that. On the multiple shot drills, don't worry about a little accuracy slop in the short term. This is a necessary it is a common byproduct of getting faster. This little bit of slop, and how much you tolerate is totally up to you, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But a little bit of slop when you're decreasing your par times is perfectly normal. Just like missing your grip a little bit when you're trying to go faster, the accuracy will come back. Now, you should still be calling your shots in dry fire, just not judging them. Well, how do I call my shots in dry fire? Really? Wherever the sights are when you press the trigger, that's where the bullet's going to go. Well, let me rephrase that. Wherever the sights are when you finish pressing the trigger is where the bullet's going to go. Not before you decide to, not when you first touch it, but at the moment the bullet would have left the barrel, that's where the shot would have gone. So you can still call your shots when you're trying to get a little faster, but you're not going to judge them. And I would highly recommend, you're not going to believe me, you're not going to do it until I get in your face in person and make you. You want to report the percentage of good shots as opposed to the percentage of bad shots. And here's why. If you do a bunch of speed mode dry fire and you report, well, it's 25% crap. Guess what? Guess what you're expecting as a result of your speed work. However, if you report 75% good shots, hey, that was 75% alphas, that's pretty good. Report the percentage of good shots as opposed to bad shots. And remember the imprint that you're sending to your self-image. If you feel like it's too sloppy, the imprint is, I'm getting faster, but. I may be getting faster, but my accuracy's gone to crap. This is why you're stuck in C class. It's one of the reasons. There's only two reasons you can be stuck in C class. You're slow or you're sloppy. If you're slow and sloppy, you're probably in D class. With all due respect to my D class brethren. Boy, I can get you out of D class in about a week. That's not a problem. Just remember that every thought you have during training accompanies you to the match. It doesn't mean you don't work on your weaknesses. It doesn't mean you ignore them or anything of the sort. It means you report to your self-image, I'm getting better at these things. That's it. So when you go to the classifier, hey, I'm getting better at these things. And then somebody out there is screaming at their radio right now, well, your book encourages me to stand still, and these new classifiers have a lot of... I get it. I totally get it. And I have been saying for years, every drill in that book can be done while moving. And here's how to do it. Insert the phrase, while moving, before every drill. For the presentation drills, I'd like you to draw to an acceptable sight picture and keep moving as far as your space allows while you hold that sight picture. I want you to do it in all four directions: forward, right, backwards, left. Use the par time for the acceptable sight picture, and then continue to move while you hold the sight picture before you do the next rep. Okay? And for the multiple shot drills, you got a couple of options. You can move during the reload, or you can move the entire time. It's up to you. Probably want to start with moving during the reload as opposed to moving the entire time. And this is where you got to be smart. Really got to be smart. Okay? If you're moving the entire time while you're doing the drill, the par time is a little less important and the accuracy is a little more important. If you're moving during the reload, the par time becomes more critical. If you don't understand that, I'll be happy to explain it again. Let's try it again. Meaning, if I'm shooting while I'm moving, it does me no good to do that if the shots aren't accurate. Now, you can for sure do a little speed mode, even stupid mode practice to figure out what it feels like to beat a new par time. But these drills are designed for standing still. You just got to be a little bit more creative. Okay? If you're moving during the reload, the par time becomes more critical because we've got to reduce the time spent not shooting. The glory of shooting while moving, and the only reason to ever do it, is because you're reducing the time spent not shooting. It's not, it is about moving, obviously, but it's more about reducing the time spent not shooting. That's what hit factor is. Reducing the time in between shots. That's why I like to do splits. Well, that's a topic for another day. But shooter, we'll give Glenn a little shout out. I don't know if I can do a Glenn voice on demand. What the truck is wrong with that? Fluff you. Shooter, knoweth thyselfeth. And he does the whole Sharon Stone leg crossing thing. You just stop the show, hit pause, go join Hulu for a free 7-day whatever, and just watch Letterkenny. What the fluff is wrong with that? So good. All right, so shooters, you must knoweth thyselfeth. What that means is if you're fast and sloppy, that's the easiest shooter to move up in class. You bring me the fast and sloppy, put them in a bus, take them to a range, I'll meet them there, and I'll get every single one of them in master class. So easy. If you're slow and accurate, it's a little tougher. Because if somebody's slow and accurate, and we try to get them to speed up, and they pop a Charlie or a Delta, whoa, easy there, cowboy. I just give up my only strength. I may be slow, but at least I was accurate. Now I'm bad. Ooh, it's bad. That's why people stay stuck in their class. They make incremental gains. They find a problem. They go back to what they were doing before. It's just that's why. Well, and the other problem is they're consciously controlling their speed at the match, and we'll get back to that here in a second. So if you're fast and sloppy, you need a better match mode. If you're slow and accurate, you just need to get faster. And it's the non-shooting things that need to get faster. Now, we didn't talk about reloads very much, but the Burkett reload drill, I'm not sure what number it is right offhand, it forces you to see the mag well. And if you comply with the 3 most important parts of the reload, gun and mag, same angle, you've seen the mag well, and you're as close as possible to the firing position, reloads are easy. Very, very easy. So, what is match mode dry fire? So, match mode dry fire, there's a few different ways you can do it. But the bottom line is, whatever you're doing, you're going to leave only acceptable shots without slowing down. So you're coming out of your speed mode work, you're feeling nice and frisky. The people make 2 mistakes going into match mode. They slow down, and they don't insist on acceptable shots. When you're coming out of match mode, we want as much of that speed as your vision allows, which is what we always want. We want as much of your speed as the vision allows. And you must activate the makeup switch. So one of the differences between good shooters and great shooters, sorry, I bunked the mic with my hat. Arik Levy, I apologize for bunking the mic with my hat. Instant makeups on paper targets is the primary distinction between a good shooter and a great shooter. Okay? A great shooter is calling his shots. He's not looking at holes in the target. Down below that, they might be looking at the holes in the target. And I'm going to tell you this, at a 6 hit factor, you cannot turn a Charlie into an alpha, an observed Charlie into an alpha, fast enough to improve your score. You can't do it. Now, a called Charlie, especially if it's wide, you think it might be a delta, you can do that. So match mode is the closest you're ever going to get in dry fire to practicing shot calling. But you must activate the makeup switch. So you can do the drills without a par time. I wouldn't do too much of that, meaning the first 12 drills are designed to make you faster. You can do them in match mode if you want to, but that's not how I recommend that you do it. Real match mode means putting a stage length on your timer, 10 seconds, and dry firing anything you want to for 10 seconds, leaving only acceptable shots without the conscious control of speed. Then go to 12 seconds, dry fire anything you want, movements, reloads, table starts, whatever you want to do, but do it continuously for 12 seconds. And then change it and add time, change it and add time, change it and add time. Now, you can run stages in dry fire with a par time. That is a thing that some shooters are doing. You've got to be so careful when you do that. If you're trying to get faster, you can accept a little slop, but at some point, you're going to need to meet the par time with only acceptable shots. Okay? At some point, you're going to need to do that. And this is a great time to identify a singular focus. What is causing people trouble is they're trying to micromanage subconscious skill with their conscious mind. Oh, it's close. I got to get a great draw. Oh, it's a hard shot. I got to slow down. So if you're not getting your current level of skill, let's examine why. You may be afraid of not classing up. This fear will be amplified by the pressure of the classifier and will deny access to your skill. Okay? You won't get it. You may be micromanaging your performance with the conscious mind. This also denies access to your training and your skill. You may be slowing down to get your hits. This also denies access to subconscious skill. And you may be in a hurry because you're worried about being slow. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. This also denies access to training and subconscious skill. If you're using your conscious mind while you're shooting, you're wasting your time training. There, I said it. Why build subconscious skill if you're not going to trust it? So what you do, point number 11 is, what do I do? Focus on the process over the result. Avoid thinking about time or hit factor and identify one thing to think about that will deliver acceptable accuracy without the conscious control of speed. I was in a match in, where was I? Someplace. I remember who I stayed with. Yeah, I don't remember the exact state I was in, but I went to a match with him. We did match mo coaching. And one of the guys that was on the squad, he wasn't in the class, but he was on the squad, and he was on the verge of making master. And he's pacing back and forth, going 6 seconds, all alphas, 6 seconds, all alphas, 6 seconds, all alphas, 6 seconds, all alphas. And when he shot the stage, he did it in 6 seconds. But he didn't get all alphas. And he missed his mark. This particular club allowed reshoots of classifiers. I'm not opposed to those in certain conditions. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to do. We'd have that debate another time. But this particular club allowed reshoots of classifiers for a fee with the caveat of you had to take your new score. You couldn't take the best of the two. You had to take the new score. That's probably a great way to do it. So before his reshoot, I said, hey, why don't you try something? Why don't you put the dot in the middle of the target? Just do that. Have you been dry firing? Are you fast? You think you got master class speed? Great. Put the dot in the middle of the target. He did that, and he got a master class run without thinking about his draw, without thinking about his reload. But you can't not think about something. Whatever you do right now, do not think about a red car. Mine was a Ford Mustang. Told you I'm thinking about a red car, thought about a red car. So don't tell yourself what not to think about. Tell yourself what to think about. So what I want you to do is shoot the classifier at the speed of sight. I want you to dry fire to get fast. Crazy fast. Stupid fast. And then I want you to identify one thing to think about that will deliver acceptable accuracy without the conscious control of speed. I feel like I have done this program 1,000 times. But if you shoot at the speed of sight and you make what you're seeing the literal trigger for firing the gun, you will get access to subconscious skill as fast as the targets allow it. And that's what you want. You know I recommend center the dot, call the shot. Center the dot also works. I will see what I need to see is very powerful for iron sights. But if you are thinking about a skill that you've trained a lot, that skill is in the subconscious mind. And if you think about that skill, you are putting the coach in the game. The coach knows, but cannot do. Subconscious does, but cannot explain. This might be a good bumper sticker. Conscious mind knows, but cannot do. Subconscious does, but cannot explain. So many times people have asked me how I do something. Yeah, how do you do this or that? And on a lot of those things, I literally have to do the thing so my conscious mind relearns what I'm doing. Because the subconscious mind can't explain it. It can do it, but it can't explain it. Now, on the subject of practicing classifiers is extremely useful for getting really good at what the classifiers require. And in my mind, we're not practicing the classifier to improve our score on that particular classifier, although that will happen. What we're doing is we're isolating the skills that the sport requires in a way they can be measured. Right? So if you invent a drill and you do it with a certain time, with a certain points or a certain hit factor, we don't know anything about that. We know it's as good as you can do it, but we don't know if it's as good as anybody can do it. And the great thing about the classifier data is we know. We know. A lot of my international clients, I encourage them to go out with classifiers. My buddy Tan in Thailand, he goes out and hundos American classifiers on a regular basis, so he knows He's hanging with the top Americans. He knows it. It's pretty great. And there's 4 classifiers you can practice for virtually everything the sport requires. And because I give away so much free milk, I'm not going to tell you what they are. But I will tell you that in the advanced class we can do every single one of them if you want to. If you're interested in moving up and you've got a bunch of guys who want to get to A or Master or Grandmaster, you say, hey, I've got access to a range and we want the G. I will come to your range for a little bit of money and I will show you exactly how to do it. Exactly how to do it. Okay? And then I want to remind you that strong hand, weak hand is the easiest way to advance to the next class, because the bulk of the sport doesn't practice one-handed shooting very much. As a result, the hit factors are a little lower. Well, I don't know if they're lower because you don't have anything to compare them to. Let's just say that it's easier to be a one-handed Grandmaster or A class or Master or whatever it is you want, strong hand, weak hand, than a two-handed Master, Grandmaster, A class, B class, whatever you want. And if your mental game is lacking in any way, you have got to come see me to take mental management. It's $300. If your wife's not in the room or your spouse is not in the room, go ahead and say your annual shooting budget out loud and then compare $300 to that. It's a mere pittance. So go to andersonshooting.com, upcoming classes. There's 3 mental management classes going on there. If you think it's more technical, guys, I promise you, if you want to advance a class, we can do a class just for that. If you do the things I recommend, I guarantee you'll move up in class very, very quickly. Okay. All right. And I want to thank Josh for mentioning me in his article. That was very, very nice of him to do that. And I hope you've enjoyed today's program. Once again, please go to andersonshooting.com and upcoming classes to see where we're at and where we're going to be and what we're going to be doing. And if you want a free class in your area, you just let me know. And if the mental management classes are not at a time and date of your liking, send me an email, steve@andersonshooting.com, and tell me when you want to do it. And if I can, I will. All right, folks, hope you've enjoyed today's program. And until we meet again, on the range, on the Zoom, on the line, or anywhere else, be like me, do what I do, say it with me. 1, 2, 3, get to work.